So cool. Got a few people in. Hi everyone, welcome. So I'm Ben from Beckett Careers. I'm one of the careers consultants at the university. Welcome to today's session. I think we've got a few more people kind of joining as we hit 12. Thanks for joining us again. I recognise some of your names. I think you've probably been on some of our previous sessions. So we're bang in the middle of our Beckett Careers Week this week. This session is all about thinking like a designer to build your career. So a bit of a new concept really when it comes to career development, but it's a very practical set of principles, a philosophy, and we can all apply it to our lives. It's about life design, and a big part of our life is our careers and what we do in our careers. So yeah, great that you've all joined us. If everyone can just make sure, which I think you have, that you're muted, your video's off, so you should be able to see me, possibly see my colleague Summer as well, who's joining us this afternoon from Beckett Careers. You should be able to see the slides as well. Yeah, and Summer's just popped a message in the chat. Any questions, please use the chat. That's kind of what it's there for. No question's a daft question. We say that every time. It really isn't. The more questions we get, that helps us. Helps us kind of address and help you kind of move forward. And that's what we're all about in Beckett Careers. So can everybody see the slides? Just as if you can put a Y or an N in the chat, just a bit of a test to see if you can hear me. You can see the slides. If you can use the chat as well.
Does feel like you're talking to a void sometimes. Like, is anyone out there?
It does, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Good stuff. Yeah. Good. How about anyone else? Everyone else? So yeah. Thanks, Victoria. That's great. Good stuff. Yeah, it should work pretty seamlessly. Although we have got a bit of an IT issue this afternoon with some of our university systems, but it doesn't seem to be affecting Microsoft Teams. So yeah, just apologies in advance if there are any tech issues, Wi-Fi issues. It's an interesting one. I can correlate that with, it's a kind of a macro issue, I suppose. It's, what can you do if the Wi-Fi, the bandwidth kind of drops? Not a lot, really. It's a bit like our careers. There's so much out of our control, but what we're able to do is, we're able to bring that right back to us in the moment and think about how we can take little small kind of micro steps, very small micro steps to help us build our way forward. And that, feeds nicely into thinking like a designer to build your career. That's what it's all about. It's about recognizing there is so much outside of our control, but it's about looking inwards and focusing on small little steps that we can start to take that allows us to move forward, to build and help us with our career development. I think we've had someone else join as well, Francesca. Hi, Francesca, welcome to this afternoon session. So that's the first slide. So I'm going to move on. I like to use GIFs in my presentations. I've got one here from the American Office. So if you've not seen the American Office, probably one of the best things I've ever seen. And hopefully that cultural reference is, you might have seen the British Office, or you might have seen the American Office. It is on, I think it's on Netflix. It seems to be everywhere. Netflix, Amazon, might be able to watch it through Sky. So yeah, check that out. So yeah, I thought I'd start off with, there we go. Tom's seen it. Both are great. Which do you prefer, Tom? Put you on the spot, the American or the British version?
I think I'd say the American version myself.
I'm with you, Summer. Yeah, definitely. I think, it's, for me, hands down the American version. But, everyone's got a different kind of taste and opinions. But if it hadn't been for the British version, we wouldn't have had the American version as well. So I know that Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant were very much involved in the start of that. So, but yeah, check that out, folks. So I thought I'd start off with a bit of a myth, or we've called it folklore here. So this idea that your degree determines your career. I think that is it's a belief that's held by many people. It's, you know, it could be your parents, it could be you, it could be your academics, it could be what you hear through the media, society in general. I think that, you know, we it's like a bit of an echo chamber. Yeah, you know, your degree determines your career. So you study a specific degree at university, and it's like, well, that leads to a very linear path within that industry. So you might be studying graphic design and be a graphic designer. Obviously, that is a route that many students will take. But Summer, you know, who we've got here from Beckett Careers this afternoon, Summer, you're I suppose, and I am as well, a representation of actually, you know, you studied film at Leeds Beckett University, and now you're working in the careers team. And yes, you are still doing stuff in the kind of film industry, but actually your career's been much more, you know, I suppose unrelated in a way to your degree. It's not that linear kind of matching process. And I think, you know, you're a good example, and as is the majority of people. So the majority of what you study doesn't directly correlate to what you do as a career. And that's something to get comfortable with, and that's something not to be afraid of, and don't feel guilty about that either. So don't feel that you've studied something specific, invested in it, not only time but money, and then you have to use it directly in a capacity out there in the labour market. The education system is far more linear and disruptive than the world of work and the labour market. And again, I think that's been brought into focus with what's happened with COVID. It's kind of turned everything upside down, and it's what it's requiring us to do as individuals that are trying to navigate that and design our lives and design our careers. It's kind of making us be flexible ultimately, and possibly try new things and look at different opportunities. And ultimately, it's all your experiences and skills. That's what you've gained, and you can take them with you. They're all transferable, and that's a real great thing, certainly about the UK labour market. So yeah, so I just wanted to start with that really. Your degree, you know, determines your career. Well, it's kind of false. The vast majority of graduates go off in a number of different directions, completely unrelated to their degree on paper. But I suppose what brings it all together is their experiences and skills that they develop whilst they're with us at university. And that's something that nobody can take away from you as well. And what you'll find is people out there, professionals out there, whatever industry that is, creative industries or graduate employers, they're really interested in you and what you've done as a collective set of experiences. They're not just interested in your degree. They might not know too much about your degree, but they'll certainly be looking at the bigger picture of you. So that's certainly something to take away from today. Okay, so Tom says both are decent. I think Ricky plays a better boss, but for the series in general, I'll say the US. Great stuff. Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff happening in the chat. Okay, so this session is it's a new session really. It's something that I'm really interested in. I'm really curious about helping people and models and methods of support. So I started reading this book called Designing Your Life that's been out for a few years now, and it's got some kind of traction in the world of kind of career development and the work that we do here in the university. So yeah, I was curious about this. So I gave it a read, and I'd heard some stuff, and yeah, it kind of inspired me and think, actually, wow, this is really powerful stuff. So it's come out of the Stanford Design Lab over in the States. So Bill Burnett and Dave Evans kind of got together, collaborated quite serendipitously, I think, initially, and it became a really popular class that they were starting to teach at Stanford, and then it's just kind of developed and escalated from there. So I thought, yeah, let me run a session in our Beckett Careers Week, and I want to go through some of the very practical tips that you can apply to help you build your career. So yeah, this is quite experiential from my perspective. So it'd be great to get your feedback at the end as well, and just see what you think. So yeah, designing your life. This is where it kind of comes from. We got a bit of a freeze on the screen. Oh,
I've just put a link in the chat if anyone's interested in that particular book. It's actually pretty cheap on Amazon. So you can have a look into it.
Thank you, Summer. Summer, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Yeah, my screen's gone a bit glitchy, I think. So can you, slides, yeah. So we are having a few tech issues, but as to be expected. Right, so you should be able to see change the world slide. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, can now.
Yeah, oh yeah, you've put the link in there as well. Great stuff. Super. Yeah, Tom said yes as well. Thank you. I've included some. Oh, fine. Don't worry about the caps locks, Tom. We know you're not shouting at us. Well, you might be shouting at us. It's fine. It's fine. Shout at us. We're all right with that. We're all right with that. So yeah, I've included some links at the end as well. But yeah, that. But I would recommend reading the book. I really would. It's fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. And yeah, it's really helped me kind of with the work that I do with students. So hopefully, it has that benefit for you as well. So yeah, why design, I suppose. So I suppose essentially, it's designers create worlds. Everything's designed, and it's about solving problems as well using design thinking. I think that's where it correlates really well with life design or your career. It's something that's I suppose it is a problem, everything, and it's how you solve that problem. As you're at university, whether you're still studying with us for a few more years or you're looking to exit university, it's like, okay, it's solving the issue of what you do next. Even if you've got a very clear idea, getting there is going to be a bit of an up and down kind of obstacle. So it's about applying those principles. And I think that's how it correlates really well. So, yeah, think about everything around us. Everything is designed by someone. The laptop that I'm streaming into today is being designed. Everything. I've got a standing desk, and I've got this wonderful standy desk set up. It's a piece of cardboard that is from Etsy. And it got shipped in from Poland. So somebody's taken the time to design this. It's made my life a lot better as well, working from there. I've always wanted a standing desk, so I'm delighted with this. So thank you to the designers that have made this. And every design starts with a problem that the designer seeks to solve. So yeah, standing desk, a cheap option. I think the shipping was more expensive. So this was like it's 15 quid, but the shipping was, I think, similar to 15 or 20 quid. I don't know why. But yeah, so this really, simple, straightforward piece of cardboard that's been designed into a standing desk. Yeah, thank you to whoever's done that. So yeah, I just wanted to bring a live example in there. And absolutely, design thinking can be applied to your life and career because it's about building your way forward as well. And that's really important, really important. Okay. So the session was called, what was the session called? Think like a designer. Think. So yeah, I included think. Obviously, we do need to think in some capacity, but not overthink, certainly. So designers don't think their way forward. They build their way forward. So a question for you folks, really. Have you been mostly thinking or mostly building? And I know, a lot of our students will certainly think about, when it comes to career, it might be thinking about their options. It might be thinking about maybe contacting people. So yeah, where do you fit into that? Have you been thinking or have you mostly been building? Summer, do you want to maybe post it can you post that in the chat?
Yeah, sure.
So there's no right or wrong answer, just off the hoof, really. What would you say? What would you say you've been doing mostly?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Like, I think from my point of view, my way of doing things has changed. So as a student, I was a thinker. I was constantly almost kind of preempting my next move. Is this going to be okay? Am I overthinking everything, the good and the bad of things? And now I'm a little bit older, not massively older. I'll just point that one out. I'm definitely more of a okay, I'm just going to push the button and see what happens, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, it doesn't, and I'm a lot more chill with it. But I definitely can relate as a student to actually I think a lot, and I guess there was an anxiety around careers as well.
Yeah, thank you, Summer. That's really good. Thank you for sharing that example. Great. So some of you started to answer that as well. So yeah, thinking, Francesca, mostly thinking. Yeah, great. Louis as well in there. Thinking mostly, but starting to build. Good. Yeah. Tom saying here, yeah, mostly thinking. Last year, did mostly build your first contacts with production company. Yeah, great, working on short films, and now I've got what a great little example there. So again, it's really interesting the actions that you take, right now, or for you, Tom, kind of last year, and what it kind of leads to as well. That's a really important point, and that's another thread through design thinking as well. Victoria, mostly thinking how I can do things to build. Overthinker, classic. Just like me as well. I was a classic overthinker. I think university does that to a certain extent, not as a criticism of university as our academic education, but it makes us think. And I'm a humanities graduate, so classic, humanities, massive kind of thing, overthinkers. I think, I can safely say that. So, and you can get into the trap. I think some of you said as well, you can overthink everything to the nth degree. But ultimately we can't know everything. And I think it's about getting comfortable with not knowing everything and taking some level of risk. It is taking some level of risk. And actually, when it comes to career, and it might be, thinking about, maybe I've identified a professional online that I really want to kind of message. You might think that's the nth degree and think, what happens if they think I'm, not right, or they don't get back to me, to the point that it paralyzes you for not actually doing it. So again, don't overthink it. Just give it a go, see what happens, because you can always learn from actually giving things a go. And I think that's really important with design thinking. It's not being afraid to test, and treating what might not work out initially as an opportunity to learn, to grow, to develop. So don't see it as a failure. See it as another building block. We have to learn from experience. There's no other way. And this is what it's all about. It's learning from that experience. And as you go along, you might start to create new opportunities that you never realized as well. That person that you're thinking, can I contact them? So you do contact them, and then they, you start a conversation with them, and they introduce you to someone else. And the next thing you know, you've got your first opportunity post Leeds Beckett, or you've got some work experience. Again, it does happen like that, and it's really powerful. We had a graduate panel yesterday where some of our grads came back and shared some of their experience with students, and they were full of those kind of stories. And it's really interesting once you've done it, and then you can look back in hindsight and think, actually, yeah, that kind of makes sense now. And it's hard in the moment. I think it's hard in the moment, particularly with everything going on as well. So yeah, don't be afraid to take that first step. You can always decide not to pursue it, or you can also always decide to follow up as well and give other things a go. It's a great time to experiment at the minute, and this is what career is all about. It's all about experiments, little small kind of micro experiments. So hopefully that kind of reassures you. And I think, just to put it in the context of I've used this a few times with students. So let's just imagine ourselves right now. We're in the middle of a forest. You're on your own. No one else is with you. You don't even have your tent or your campfire. So you stood there in the middle of the forest, and you look around. All you can see is trees. That's it. All you can see is trees. Look up, obviously you can see the sky. So yeah, try and imagine yourself there right now. So, and you need to get out. You want to get home. What do you do? Well, you could sit or stand there, for as long as you want, and think, I wonder how I'm going to get out of here. Well, that's not going to get you very far. You're going to run out of food and water if you kind of sit or stand there thinking about how you're going to get out. What you do is you take some steps. So you move towards different parts of the trees. But once you start to move, you're not only building action, actually, as you get closer to the trees, you start to see, you can see through the trees, you can see different paths, and then that enables you to kind of get out. So that, to use that as a reference point, really, and that's what it's all about. Even if it's the smallest possible step, I encourage you to take that small possible step, because you start to open up opportunities. So essentially, with design thinking, there are 5 kind of core principles. So I'll run through those principles, and just to say, really, this is an overview really today. I'm not going to go into these in a huge amount of detail, but I have provided some resources at the end that hopefully you'll find useful, and you can go and you might go and buy the book and actually look into this in a little bit more detail and apply some of the practical tasks, because there's a number of tasks within the book. There's also a workbook, so you can really take this as far as you want, which is all designed to help you build your kind of way forward. So another GIF. Does anybody know who that is? So this chap here, cycling through the galaxy. Cheers, Tom. Yeah, it's a good one, that, isn't it? Does anybody know who it is, though?
I think I do, but I'm gonna let people guess.
Have a little guess.
Where do you find these things?
Oh, okay. Tom's going for Albert Einstein. Yeah, Victoria's not too sure. Giphy's great. I love GIFs. GIFs just yeah.
They're the gift that keeps on giving.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know whether, again, I don't know if GIFs is I've been out of university a few years with students now. I don't know if GIFs are still a engaging kind of concept or something that's kind of used. I like them, and I like this one as well. This one really spoke to me. So, any more guesses on who that is? Any takers?
Yeah, we've got Tom says Einstein. I would have said Einstein as well, actually.
Would you? Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah, a few that aren't sure. Okay. Yeah. So it is. Well done, Tom. Yeah, it's Einstein. It's Albert Einstein, who very kind of famous inventor. So, yeah, the reason I included this. So this is all about being curious. This is where you start with design thinking. So Einstein said himself that he has no real talents. So he said, look, I've got no real talents other than passionate curiosity. So that's a really interesting point. So he was just incredibly curious, and that's what kind of drove him. That's what drove his inventions. So it's about this is what it's about. It's about stoking that curiosity inside of you. Thinking about what you're really curious about, and taking some action with it ultimately. So, and studies have shown as well that curiosity it primes our brain for learning new things. So it's a really kind of crucial mindset to adopt from the outset. And we're all curious about things. When it comes to kind of careers work, and you might have had this as well as students. You might have had people say to you, "Oh, what are you passionate about?" Which I don't like that question, because research suggests that not many people actually know what they're passionate about. Only very few people do. But actually, the way that you get to be passionate about something is by trying things. So only after the event, so you take some action and suddenly you find that you are passionate about something quite specific. So you found that passion, but it's not something that you can just suddenly think of the top of your head, and then suddenly, oh yeah, great, I found my kind of passion. And people have many different passions as well. There'll be so many passions that Summer has, that I have, that we don't yet know about, because we've not had a number of experiences that has enabled us to understand what that is as well. So focus more on your curiosity. Think about what you are curious about, and use that as the energy source to get you moving forward. As a spark. Act on it and see where it kind of takes you as well. And you can use that. Treat that as a number of little micro experiments. Again, those small steps about your curiosity. And you might go down one path with your curiosity about something, and actually then that might spike up some more curiosity as well. So it's a real kind of growth-minded approach, and that's really important as a starting point. And it might, for you, it might be something to do with your degree. It might be a certain aspect of your degree. It might be a module you studied. It might be a guest speaker that might have come in at some point. It might be some graduates that have gone to work in different fields. As well, quite conversely, it could also be things completely unrelated to your degree. It could be things back to your childhood. So your parents or your family might say, oh, they might keep saying to you that you were into certain things when you were younger, and that's something to lean on as well. So actually, what we did when we were younger and what we were interested in and how we were can also give us clues about who we are now and maybe where we're going as well. So that kind of curiosity never ends. So for you, in terms of the passion bit, be passionately curious like Einstein. Ultimately, that's what I would definitely say there about curiosity. So that's number one. Number two, as I've already kind of alluded to, is about trying stuff. So acting on your curiosity. And this is what designers do. They kind of prototype. So they try, they experiment, they take some action. It becomes experiential. And that's where the real interesting stuff kind of starts to happen. And they see things for kind of as they are. They see maybe the potential problems, the barriers, the hurdles, the good bits, and how maybe that design can be developed. And again, also the case with our careers and our lives. We've got to kind of try things to experience them for kind of what they are, to give us clues about whether that's a good fit for us, if it's right. Because information now is we have too much information, you could argue, and if information was the answer, information in itself, we'd all be billionaires and we'd all have perfect abs. That's a quote from a guy called Derek Sivers, I think. He said that, and I thought, yeah, absolutely, great quote. Yeah, information overload. We don't need all the information because we can't. We can read about so much on the internet, but actually, until we try stuff, until we get some of that real kind of experience, it's not going to mean as much for us, putting ourselves in certain situations. But just to challenge that thought myself, I would say, in terms of trying stuff, it could be a case of undertaking some conversations with some people that you might identify who are maybe doing things that you're interested in. So again, as opposed to reading stuff, on the internet, it's actually you're having a real kind of conversation with maybe some Leeds Beckett grads who might have studied your course. So that can be really useful. But yeah, where you can, certainly try stuff, experiment with that stuff. It's and be prepared to see how that develops as well, and how things might change as well. Again, being flexible, being open-minded with it is really important with design thinking. And then we've got this idea of, again, I think this is very growth-minded, reframing problems. So I really like this one in terms of looking at obstacles as well, what might be possible obstacles, and actually, thinking about the solution. So again, design thinking is all about solving problems. So I always think there's always a solution. There's always a solution, and that's something that we can control. Again, I think that example I referred to at the beginning, you might, let's say you've had recently, you've had an opportunity to listen to a graduate that might have studied your course. So they've been back in as a guest speaker or an employer throughout your time with us at Leeds Beckett. And you might think, they're a real great kind of speaker. I want to contact them. And let's say you do contact them initially. You write them a really personal kind of email and ask them if they've got any more advice that they could offer you to help you kind of move forward with your career. And you don't get a response. So, you've got kind of two options really there. You could think, they obviously don't think I'm very very good, or they're not interested in me, so I'll just kind of give up. I won't kind of pursue it. Or you can think, okay, I've tried to contact them. They're actually probably a very busy person. I'm not going to take the fact that they've not been back in touch with me personally, but I'm going to use it as an opportunity to wait a few weeks and then I'll contact them again. And actually, you then contact them again, and suddenly you get the timing right, and they're not as busy, or your email pops into their inbox at the right time, and you get a response. So again, that's a very simplistic way but in a career context, of how you can reframe a problem. So very growth-minded. Don't be afraid to kind of put that kind of spin on things, and don't be afraid to go back to people and ask again. So that was just something that kind of popped into my head to make it more kind of practical for you folks that have tuned in today. So, but you can apply this to a number of different scenarios. So it's looking for that positive learning experience, because we can learn from everything. Even failed attempts to contact people, even the second time, even we can let's move on to someone else. Let's try a different approach. Applying for opportunities, trying to create opportunities for ourselves. There's going to be rejection, there's going to be knockback. It's normal, it's part of the process, but don't let it kind of knock you for six. Use it as an opportunity to tweak, to iterate, and to reframe, and be really positive and learn from it, and try and improve. That's what this bit is all about. And again, this is what designers use when they're designing and creating. So yeah, don't think that's you're stuck. You can always move on. And also the reframe at the very beginning, the fact that degree equals career. That's a reframe. And hopefully I gave some positivity about your skills and experiences, not your degree title, and actually how you use that. So that's a reframe right there. So hopefully that kind of makes some sense.
I think this is a really important one for anyone. I noticed Tom mentioned film, so that's why I'm kind of drawn to it. As a freelancer in the film industry alongside a full-time job, you do get knocked back all the time, and it is about putting the positive on it, and you can actually reframe it. And it's not always appropriate, but recently I got a knockback from a script reading job, and I actually just messaged him and I said, how can I improve? What can I do to make this possible? If I come back next year and I submit again, what will make you accept me? And actually they responded and said, well, this was the issue. And I was like, great, see you next year, I'll be back. And it's about kind of looking at it, but being positive rather than just taking rejection on the nose. It's kind of, how can I make this work in my favor and work for my growth?
Yeah, that's brilliant, Summer. Thank you for kind of bringing that to life. Yeah, and I think, again, as students coming out of university, it can be quite terrifying. Again, I think with time and experience, we build more confidence, but you'll be amazed at how what goes off in your head, the overthinking bit is back to that point. It can be quite paralyzing. So and it's never certainly 99.9%, but never as bad as we kind of. And our mind plays tricks on us as well. It always sees the worst. That's how we are. We're evolutionary programmed for that, because back before everything was designed, we were running around, in kind of the savannah or wherever we were, the hunter-gatherers kind of times, and we were highly alert because we needed to survive. So that's still with us. That's ingrained in us. So yeah, try that reframe. Try again, and it's amazing as well how many people are willing to help, and that's another point. Again, I think that alludes to and kind of complements what Summer has said. Don't be afraid to ask, particularly where there might be a Leeds Beckett link. It could be a grad, it could be a Leeds Beckett alumni. People are willing to help, and I think particularly now as well, they look at graduates, students and graduates at university, and things have kind of been turned upside down from what we've known. And it's about that helping hand, and they're looking to send the elevator back down to give you a boost, but they just need to be asked. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to do that and take some kind of positive action around that piece. And then we've got point number 4. So knowing it's a process. So, giving ourselves some time to breathe, not thinking that, okay, I've done my education. It's now opportunities and I'll go straight into an opportunity and that's kind of it. It's never kind of worked like that. It's always been a building process. Things do take time, and your careers as well will be really interesting in I think Summer's a good example of this, that studied film, has worked, still kind of kept your hand in the film kind of industry, but you're kind of, full time is, part of Beckett careers, working with kind of students and young people. You've got some experience of that. And that's something that's evolving, building, and it'll continue to as well. So just because we've left university several years ago doesn't mean that this doesn't apply to us as well. And this is something we all need to get comfortable with, because the world of work is changing. It's becoming more disruptive. There's more automation. It's eliminating certain industries, but it's also creating new opportunities. Students and graduates will play a huge part in the rebuilding of the future. You've got the ideas, you've got the skills, you've got the energy, and that's something to be really positive about. But yeah, knowing it's a process, when it comes to designing, it is absolutely a process. And this idea that everything's kind of linear and straightforward, it is literally a work of fiction. But again, it doesn't help that this is reinforced through the media and those expectations. It might be people saying to you, I used to get this, my degree's history and politics, and people used to say to me, are you going to be a historian, or are you going to be prime minister? Seriously, that people used to say that to me all of the time, and it doesn't help. It really doesn't help. It's such a narrow way of kind of labeling and putting people in boxes. And things don't work like that. I studied a degree that, it might directly relate to those career outputs, but that's definitely not the case. And things are much more messy. The squiggly line represented on the screen. That's even if you are, where you're headed, and you're on a track to get there. There'll be unknowns that will kind of crop up. There'll be things that we can't control. Again, think about COVID. No one saw that coming, and then boom, it's completely reshaped. The world to a certain extent. So yeah, knowing it's a process, but even in that process, and this is where being curious, taking some action, reframing problems, getting into the kind of nitty gritty really of it all. The magic can happen there, and actually things can start to spark up, and new opportunities, because you've got that curious mindset, because you're giving things a go, and it's through people as well. So you're tapping into a really interesting variable there. That starts to create new opportunities. So you start to see opportunities everywhere, opportunities that you never thought you could previously see as well. And that's really powerful, because chance plays a significant part in people's careers. Serendipity, chance, random luck, those kind of things. 90% of people have reported that, actually it's all been chance encounters, but you're the active participant in that. You're the energy source. So you've got to do things to facilitate chance, and particularly through people, random conversations. I was telling some students the other day about a law student who went to the hairdressers when you could go to the hairdressers. And I think I know this weekend, I think hairdressers are opening back up. I'm going to go and get my hair cut. So I just thought I'd weave that into there. Law student went to the hairdressers, sat in the chair with the hairdresser. And as we all kind of experience, the hairdressers are always talking about, what do you do? Kind of obvious questions. And the law student said, I'm a law student at university, and I'm looking to get some experience. And the hairdresser man happened to have a sister working as a in a law firm. She said, "Oh, my sister's in a law firm. I can put you in contact to see if you can set up some experience." Done. Easy as that. But how random is that? Just by telling people, who you are and what you do, that kind of led to this real random and facilitated this opportunity. So it can be that simplistic. It really can, and it's about embracing that and working with that. And again, Einstein, lots of creations, lots of designs have happened by accident. I'm trying to think of a couple of that I know about that were kind of accidents. I've got kids; they like playing with Play-Doh. So Play-Doh was a result of an accident. It wasn't specifically designed, and I think again we can use that with our careers because there's so many variables, there's so many unknowns, and things are ever changing. But it's putting ourselves in that dynamic for that influence to kind of happen. So hopefully that kind of makes some sense there.
Got some good comments actually.
Okay.
From Tom. Actually about the last slide. Tom says he thinks people miss out on opportunities, and actually kind of putting yourself forward in front of employers shows employers that you're keen, that you're making a good impression on them. That's about the kind of refocusing things. And Victoria said that she sees the process as like art, which I really like.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be rushed, mistakes, lessons along the way, and everything's going to work out. And yeah, I like that.
Brilliant. Yeah, thank you both. Yeah, really good. Yeah, I like, and particularly the art. Well, design. Design is art, isn't it? It's yeah, and giving yourself time as well. And I know again, other our community of influencers, our parents. There is that pressure of, oh, okay, if you're finishing uni, right, go out and get just go and get a graduate job, and you need to be earning X amount of money. And again, also our parents come from a different generation where they may have had a very stable job career. They might have worked in one or two places. That's kind of disappeared now, and the new opportunities for you are going to be incredibly diverse. Summer, you've got, again, you're a good example. You've got a portfolio career. You've got these kind of, you've got one foot in the film industry. And you work for us as you kind of your full time kind of job, kind of income. So particularly in the creative world, the portfolio working on different projects, collaborating with people, that's kind of what it's all about as well. And yeah, that's something to embrace, not to think that it shouldn't be like that. So yeah, that really good points. Thank you both. Yeah, thank you very much for that. And then the final point, really, and something that we should always do, and again, it feeds into some of the comments we've made about reaching out to people, not being afraid to ask for help. We've got a career service here at Leeds Beckett University. You can ask us for help. You can ask your academics for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Everyone's trying to work stuff out, and this is about. I think this is such an important point around, again, bringing it back to design thinking. You can't design things yourself. You might have the idea. Think of the iPhone. Not one person makes all that. It's something that's collaborated on. So it's about collaboration. It's about working with other people to design and build. And we all kind of need that. We can't all do it ourselves. And it's absolutely okay to kind of ask for help. Again, by telling people or asking people for help and telling your story and maybe listening to their story and getting some insight from them, that again can spark up unforeseen opportunities. So another good reason to ask for help. Don't be afraid to kind of do that. Again, if you don't ask, you don't know. Again, it feeds back to curiosity. So use that curiosity to ask. Again, it's like, we always say, "Oh, ask us any questions and stuff." Again, don't leave it in your head. It might be something that you can ask, and then suddenly, it sparks something out. So it's really important, and collaborating with people is such a huge part of of what you've done throughout your degree, and what you'll do next as well. We certainly need that, and it's yeah. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't see it as if you're asking for help around certain things, that it's a failure of any kind of sort, or a weakness. I know some people might not want to ask for help because they see it as a kind of vulnerable kind of with it and stuff. So it's definitely a team, a team sport. Design is, and our lives are as well. We need other people to work with. So that's the final point, really, around those kind of principles.
It took me quite a while before I kind of figured out that asking for help was okay. And it's now part of, well, it's a big part of networking now for me in the film kind of side of things. But you've got the careers department, and actually utilize it while you're here. I didn't, as a student, own up to that. And I came out, and then I was a bit like, oh, I should have asked those questions, should have got my CV checked. Well, I've had a team of experts there. And then, you do have 5 years after you graduate to use the careers department, but use it while you're here and get that kind of leg up. Also, if you are looking at going into creative industries or any industry really, and you want to chat to somebody who's maybe in that industry, you maybe know of somebody or whatever, just ask them for a coffee. You can do a virtual coffee now. Just, really respectfully, can I have 20 minutes of your time? I've just got a few questions. I'm curious about this.
Summer, you're stealing my thunder. Look, straight into the informational interview. I know you that was a perfect link. I was going to say segue.
It's almost like we've planned it.
So almost like we planned it. Yeah. So what? Do you know what? How this is going to play? It's just a few minutes. This. I think I might have to share my screen instead. Let's have a look. No, you can still see that. So let me just try something else, folks. Just bear with me. I'll go to that. Whether this will work, I don't know. A bit of a first, this one. So let me know. Okay, got video. So let's try my desktop. Okay, can you see that, Summer?
I can see that you're clicking on the video.
Tell me.
Yeah, it looks like it's loading.
Can you hear it?
I can't hear it now.
Yeah, okay. This is the problem. Still working some stuff out, aren't we, I think? Right, I'll stop sharing. I'll share again. Let me try it again. Include system audio. Right, let me know if you can hear this.
I can hear it, I can't see it.
An informational...
You can't see it now?
Now I can. Now you've got it.
So you can see it and hear it?
I think so. I'm not sure about anyone else yet.
Can anyone else? I'm just going to play it for a little bit. Let me know if you can hear it and see it just in the chat. I can't see the chat, Summer, just if you can keep an eye on that.
Interview is an amazingly powerful tool. It can help you learn about different types of work you're interested in. And by providing inside perspective, it may even connect you to opportunities you couldn't see from the outside. So let's take a look at what informational interviewing is all about. An informational interview is not a job interview, and it's not a trick you play to get a job. If you're asking for a job and they do have one, then they'll likely start judging whether you're a good fit. And if they don't have one, then that conversation ends there. The key to a successful informational interview is curiosity. With sincere curiosity and good questions about your interviewee's life and experience, you gain insights into their successes and failures, how they got where they are, and what's important to them. Your curiosity will lead to an authentically engaged conversation, which also opens the door for the interviewee to get curious about you. The professional you're speaking with might say something like, "Wow, you're asking some really good questions." And in that transition, informational interviewing becomes even more valuable for someone looking for work. Informational interviews give you an opportunity to see what kinds of work resonate with you and help you determine what communities you would like to be a part of. In a good informational interview, the professional you speak with gets a lot out of the conversation too. They get to discuss their life and their work with someone who's curious about their experience and values their expertise. Plus, they get the pleasure of talking with someone who's genuinely interested in what they do. How do you do it well? Here are 5 tips to get you started. First, do your homework. Take some time to research LinkedIn or other online platforms to learn about the professional you're interviewing. Consider what questions you have about their life and work. The second tip is to try to meet in person. On the phone is okay, but face-to-face is best. 3, always try to buy the coffee or lunch. Your interviewee is giving you their time. Paying is a good way of showing your appreciation and beginning to create a connection. 4, ask your interviewee who else they recommend you talk with. If the interview has gone well, they may be willing to connect you to other professionals you can learn from and who might have opportunities for you. Finally, tip number 5, after the interview, send a thank you. Email is okay, but a handwritten note is even better. And if they ask you to keep them posted on your progress, do so.
Ooh, hope that was useful, folks. That is great stuff. Yeah, that's part of the where the life design kind of concept comes from. They've also produced some videos, and I think the informational interview one is so important because you're starting to find out people's stories. So you're curious about people, you're interested, you become interested as well, and then that starts to develop such a rich set of opportunities and some practical tips there as well about, I think the meeting in person one, that's been difficult. I think it's going to start to be a little bit easier. Hopefully that kind of continues. But even being able to kind of do that online, sometimes that's the only option that we've had previously. Some of those practical kind of tips as well, the thank you note at the end. So there's some real powerful insights there. I think you can take away. Can't say no to a free coffee, Victoria. Absolutely. Yeah, every single time. So again, it's building and nurturing. It's, it reference, going straight in and asking for a job or an opportunity. Well, it's unlikely to go anywhere, but it's actually about, going through the more kind of subtle kind of route, but you're building that rapport, you're building that relationship, and actually you're getting a much richer set of insight as well, and potentially getting introduced to other people that can be helpful. So, there's loads of kind of videos like that, but I thought I'd share that one because I think it was very kind of fitting for what we've gone through today. And just to start to wrap up, really, I thought this was a real good kind of paragraph or sentence or two. You are the creative agent in your life. Don't forget that. So you have that creative capacity, and you have the power to make the necessary changes. Again, those very small micro changes that it might be. Again, acting upon that curiosity. That's what we are kind of responsible for. That's what we can control, because there's so much we can't control, as we kind of know with what's happened with the COVID-19 situation. And don't forget, it'll take time and effort as well. So you need to put in the effort. It's going to get pretty messy, but ultimately, you are the boss of you, and that's the way to kind of approach this. That very much taking that design thinking kind of concept and applying it to your kind of situation. And that in itself should then be a catalyst, and you should start to see all these new and wonderful kind of opportunities. And I think it's more important now than ever because of fewer opportunities maybe as we're going through change. But you always kind of own this piece, and even the piece about going out there and speaking to people, getting their insight. That could be such a life-changing kind of set of experiments as well. And actually, it's probably worth saying at this point, research as well suggests that the way to find and create opportunities isn't via applying for jobs that you might see through a jobs board, although that is one method. But the most effective method is through people building your networks. So another important kind of thread in there.
Yeah, so we got a question from Tom.
Great.
It's a great question. No such thing as a silly question.
No.
So he asks what happens if the conversation kind of feels contrived? Would the employer see faults in deliberately bringing up a topic in a conversation rather than it naturally being brought up?
Ooh, yeah, that is a good one, isn't it? Yeah, so I think that's where the research comes in from your perspective. And that's what a lot of people fail to do. They fail to research. Again, it's easier now than ever to research people. We've got LinkedIn. We can professionally stalk people. We can find out lots of information about people. And you can use that to your advantage. And what you'll find is that, conversations can kind of then start to kind of happen kind of naturally, and you start to kind of build that rapport. But you've got to do your research. You've got to understand that individual that you're hoping to get kind of some more information kind of out of as well. And hopefully then that, as this conversation starts to build, it starts to flow, other things present that you might not have thought would happen, and it develops kind of organically. But ultimately, the key is the research piece. But again, I think it's also being mindful of sometimes that conversation could be quite stilted. You could have done all the research. You could be really well prepared. You could have some questions up your sleeve, but you just might not click with that person. And again, I think it's knowing that it's a process. That's fine. Again, use that as a learning experience. And actually, it might feel quite contrived, or their body language might not be that responsive, or you might not get what you thought you got out of it. But actually, they then might want to follow up with you, or they might put you in touch with someone else. So it's very nuanced, but hopefully that kind of answers your question to a certain extent. Summer, anything you want to say on that bit as well? Any experience of where that might have happened for you?
Well, yeah, I guess so. So in my previous job, I was a recruiter, so I used to interview people all the time. And I think this is going to sound hard, but you can tell as an interviewer or being the person spoke to in this scenario when somebody is quite nervous and quite anxious, and that makes you nervous and anxious. You kind of mirror their energy. So where you can, find a way to just kind of get rid of that nervous energy. Like for me, it's listening to some tunes or whatever it is, and try and kind of go in positive, happy, I'm confident. It does take practice. Like it feels very easy for me to say that now, but I do remember being, early 20s, I was like, I've got to talk to someone I don't know. This is terrifying. And, I get it. But if you can go in there with some confidence, then, you're going to pass that energy over to the person you're speaking to, and it's going to make things flow a lot easier.
Yeah, that's a real good point. So, and by preparing as well thoroughly, you should become more confident. But again, it can be very daunting at the beginning, but it's about taking those small steps and learning from it. It's not always going to be straightforward, but the more that you do it, the more confident you become as well, and the more nuanced opportunities that you'll create for yourself. So thank you for sharing that, Summer. I've just kind of there's some further resources on here as well. We'll share this information afterwards with you. So I've just linked some of the design life stuff that we mentioned. There's videos, there's resources, there's a blog, there's the book that Summer shared. If this has kind of spiked curiosity about the design process that we've talked about today, go and find out more info. And just a reminder, we are in the middle of Beckett, Beyond Beckett Careers Week. Tomorrow's Thursday. It's all about applying for grad roles and further study. We've got a session with film buddy as well about breaking into TV, film, and media that might be of interest. And then on Friday,
Wait.
yeah, that'll be a good one. And then on Friday, we've also got self-promoting your way into the creative industries, run by a graphic designer. So again, design very much a theme, but this is about how you self-promote, and this is about getting your LinkedIn in shape. This is about getting your portfolio. This is about contacting people. So any creatives on this, or just anyone interested in how you self-promote, please get onto those as well. Information on my hub. So it's been wonderful hosting this afternoon with Summer. I only thought this would be like half an hour, but we've actually used an hour. We've had some great chat and great questions and engagement. We've had a bit of fun with the American office and stuff as well. So thank you all again for participating. You know, this is what kind of makes it for us. We're helping you out. And yeah, you know, if you've got any other comments, let us know. Any feedback, if you want more of this, or you know, it's been a bit kind of random because it's been a first as well. Again, it's, you know, I like to think we're being kind of curious and experiential, and that's what it's all about. We're learning as we go, and it's a really exciting thing for us to do alongside our students. So yeah, great stuff. And I think Summer, we need to join another call, I think, at 1, don't we? So
We do, yeah. Just to kind of wrap up, if anyone does have any questions, it doesn't have to be related to this session at all. If you are wondering about your CV, if you have a question about your career, your future, I've stuck the email in there, careers@leedsbeckett.ac.uk. It's me that responds to it. So, you know you're in good hands. So yeah, just send us a message. No such thing as a stupid question. More than happy to help out.
Absolutely, yeah, great stuff. Thanks for sharing that, Summer. And the chat will still be open after we close the session. So if there's anything else you want to pop in there, please do so. We'll get a recording of this as well, and we'll be able to share that out with those kind of links. So yeah, once again, great to see you all. Hope to see you on some more events later this week. And thanks for participating today.
Yeah, thanks very much.